Oh my goodness. How did this series just go under the radar for so long? How did this series not get hyped up? Why does this series have such a low fan base? I'm very curious about this. Because I've seen it, honestly, I've seen it here and there, people recommending ReZero, but I haven't seen it to the extent of other series from this season. And when I watch this episode, and I see that the first episode, has an hour-long runtime, or 40 minutes if you cut the commercials, I'm like, the fuck? Like, I just derped a little bit. I'm like, what? Like, hour-long first episode? What? Last time this has happened, that was, I think... I know one of the Monogatari series, I think it got an hour-long episode, but I think it was released 2 episodes at once. But the last known series I reviewed was Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. And when I think of a series that gets an hour-long first episode, I'm thinking like, damn, the company that's working on this must really like this series. They must really want to go all in. They really want to go all in for the series. So I'm like, okay, so I got an hour. I got an hour to watch on this series. So that was my first general impressions before I even started ReZero. I actually walked in the series not really knowing a whole lot. And now watching it, the summary is a lie. It doesn't really tell you jack shit. Which I kind of avoid a majority of the summary. It might say it, but from what I remember from the summary, it doesn't tell you jack shit to what really happened in this this first episode. And I just quickly want to say something. I'm a big fanboy of Boku no Hero Academia. I'm a big fanboy of JoJo. And if those series were not airing at this time, like if they were not coming out right now, and I didn't love both series, and I wasn't a fanboy of them, I would probably say right now, this so far has the strongest start of Spring of Anime 2016. Definitely. Strongest start yet. Now, to get into some things, okay? If you've yet to watch this, let me tell you some of the themes or settings, and then you can go watch it, and then I want to dive into, you know, spoiler territory of the first episode. So, the themes of ReZero is medieval, obviously. It's kind of set into a medieval fantasy world, so if you liked Konosuba from last season, like, this is a very good recent example. If you like Konosuba, okay? It's not exactly like it, so don't think it is, but if you like the setting of Konosuba, and you like how a character kind of gets, like, transported into another world, you might like the setting, because that's similar, not exactly, but similar to how it happens. And on top of that, it has a more serious atmosphere, definitely. It has a serious atmosphere. It does have its comedy, not to the extent of Konosuba, but it does have its comedy, but it has a serious atmosphere building up behind the scenes throughout the entire episode for that final conclusion. Now, you do get to see brief glimpses of this serious atmosphere right at the beginning of the episode, especially with the music and the tone. You get to see the tone shifts back and forth, which I'm not going to dive into because I want to, you know, tell you all, if you've yet to see the episode, just go watch it. It was a very good first episode. So, it has stuff like that. It has stuff about medieval fantasy, has tone shifts with dark, you know, themes and comedy. But then, on top of that, with the final reveal, which I don't want to spoil yet, because, like I said, I'm trying to let you all know if you've yet to see the episode, there's an unexpected theme at the end of the episode, which I didn't expect. So, go watch it. Now that I said that, I'm going to give you all 3 seconds, and then I want to dive into some spoiler territory on ReZero and get my actual real first impressions out. So, 3, 2, 1, stato. Okay, so, the time traveling stuff. Instant Steins Gate vibes. Now, I did talk about this on Twitter, and a couple of Shibits kind of, you know, I had a conversation with them, and we had, you know, we're talking about, you know, overall thoughts on, you know, ReZero. I was mentioning how it reminded me a lot of Steins Gate in a way, because of the way the ending was executed, and it is similar in a way. It really is. I mean, you have it to where the main female character, she dies at the end, and you see another girl die, and then time resets to a certain point, and then he has to redo it over. And then, after getting to talk with a couple of Chibits on Twitter, it changed my overall impressions of how this time traveling works, or what it's very similar to. It's very similar, in a way, to All You Need Is Kill, And it's also very similar to as if, your life is, having a redo. Like, if you have a checkpoint in your life, and you have a new +1. Like, let's say a 1-up. Let's think of Mario, okay? You get a checkpoint, you die, you go back to the checkpoint, you start back over. That's exactly what this kind of is. It's not exactly Steins Gate with, the D-Mail and stuff, but it reminded me of that. It gave me the time-traveling vibes, which there is time-traveling, or at the very least, it's resetting in some way, which we don't get to find out exactly how this works yet, which I really pray we find a reason to why we find out how he can use time traveling, because if not, I don't want to experience the same exact thing with, the Erased, final episode. So, getting off of that, though, the themes of it, especially the dark, serious themes, was unexpected. I did not think it would dive into something like that. When you saw the character in the middle half of the episode, he just dies like he does. He just fucking drops dead. Like, you have where the main female character, she dies, and then the main character, he walks into the fucking door, his belly gets slit, and he just falls over dead. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's my face. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? I'm like, what? So, when the character dropped dead, I'm like, is that GG? Is this fucking GG? And so, when we find out he went back and he's like, all blurry and stuff, he's like, huh? And I'm like, this is a time-traveling anime. So, it's gonna be that type of series. It's gonna be a series that focuses on the main character trying to figure out what is going on here, why he was summoned to this world. And I have a couple of slight theories. It's not completely, has a huge foundation point yet, like where it's has a lot of pillars backing it up, because this was the first episode, and there's not a whole lot of information we know of at this point. But judging by how we're getting into, like, time traveling and stuff, I'm going to just assume, with the way the first part of this episode was executed, I want to assume that there was, like, another dimension of himself or something. Maybe, there's different timelines similar to Steins Gate, like different world lines. Not exactly, but you get my point. And, like, another one of his selves, like, called himself into the world. Like, you see it to where he's like, help me and stuff. You see this hand reaching out, and if you go back to it, it's very similar to what happened to the main character. And because of this, as soon as you see this, you see how he's sucked into this world. So I'm assuming that either A, his other self from another, like, dimension or parallel universe summoned him into that universe to fix things, or B, someone else gave him this ability at the last second to be able to do this. One or the other has happened. But I will say, however, when it comes to the way this episode was orchestrated, it's a fantastic episode. It really was. And the budget-wise, like, when it comes to, the production, animation, art, the art, it's not the best. It's not the best I've ever seen. If I had to really say, Boku no Hero Academia, easily probably one of the best, or JoJo from the season in terms of art style, and animation, of course. Now, regardless of some certain issues, especially with the animation art of ReZero, there was some good scenes, especially when it did come to the animation art, which was that fighting scene at the end of the episode. And clearly, they were saving a lot of budget, at the very least, or a lot of, production that they were working on this first episode for that scene in general, which it paid off, because it really set the tone of what we could expect for the upcoming fights in the series. Because I'm willing to bet that this is not the last fight we're going to see. But that fight scene with the bartender, the giant dude, that had a big-ass fucking club. He looked like a giant barbarian. He reminded me of someone you would see from Castle Crashers. He goes in, he grabs his fucking big-ass club, and he's just slamming the damn tables around, breaking everything. And right off the bat, you notice that he's way too slow. He's way too slow against the person he's fighting, and you know he's probably going to die. But still, the fighting scene with the frames, like the frames per second they used, along with how fluid it was, it looked beautiful. It looked absolutely beautiful when you see that fighting scene. And I didn't expect the gore as well. Oh my god. Now, there was censorship. I did notice censorship. There was some black bars here and there slowly covering it over. But I believe that since the way it was done, BD DVDs will clear that up completely. At the very least, it wasn't to the extent of Terraformars that did this season, just completely axing out, gore in general, even that roach violence. You're like, what the fuck? So, 10 points, 10 plus points, just a couple points, so just 10 plus, whatever. It's just a lot of points added to ReZero just for, at the very least, handling this censorship in that way. Even though I'm not a fan of it, I know Japan has their own laws and stuff, and they can't really help that. I'm willing to bet that if the animators were allowed to, they would make it uncensored if they could. So I'm very happy to see how it was done like that. So there is a lot of hope for BD DVDs to have some really good ass content in it. But getting back into it, let's get back into the plot. Okay, so what's going on here with the story is that our MC has been sucked into this world, and you don't really get explained why he's sucked in this world, but like I've already kind of slightly dived into, I'm assuming, obviously someone else summoned him into the world, but I believe it is himself. His own self summoned him into this world, and it's probably like a vicious, endless cycle repeating itself. Like, I can see it to where he's constantly repeating a cycle, and he cannot leave this loop. And like, for instance, he'll die, let's just say this, he'll die maybe 15 to 20 times, okay? And then he gets to the point to where he's asking for help, he's begging for help, and then he sucks himself in from the other world into the fantasy world. I can see something like that being the case here. For instance, an endless cycle, this ring going around of death, and he's trying to figure out how to escape it and trying to fix things. Maybe there's a possibility, since he's in this cycle, no matter what he does, someone is going to die. Similar to, you know, I don't want to spoil actually, but, you know, similar to that other series I have watched in the past and have reviewed. So, yeah. I believe that's what's going on here. But on top of that, too, though, getting a little bit more deeper into the plot, I feel like the main objective now is the MC trying to figure out everything he can do to get out of this, but also save the people that he recently met. And I think that the phone that he has is probably going to play a huge role in the future. It's definitely going to play a huge role. Because when you saw him take a picture of the girl that killed him twice, actually probably 3 times or more than that, depending if there is a cycle, the girl that killed him, he took a picture of her. And I'm willing to bet if you saw your killer, like if that was your final thoughts before you died, you're probably going to have that person integrated into your brain. You're going to remember that person. So I believe that the MC is going to go around trying to take a picture of a lot of different things to figure out what he can do or how he can use this to his advantage to outsmart people in the future of the series. So I believe the phone is going to be very important because of picture taking. But on top of this, though, he also has a way to make a lot of money because he could sell the phone for over 20 holy coins according to what we found out. So it's a lot of money, apparently. 20 holy coins is an unbelievable amount of money. So because of this, we know for a fact he has an item with him that could get him rich quick. So he could possibly maybe buy a mini small band of magic users or something under his wing to be able to fight. That's also a possibility too. So there's a lot of different ways the MC can go about this with, you know, the phone. He could take pictures, use it as, you know, a reconnaissance, or he could sell the phone to make easy money for he can, you know, get some shit done if he has to constantly repeat. Now, let's talk about the main female character. So, her name is, Satala, I think that's how you pronounce it. She's apparently a witch, and she's discriminated against, and people don't like her, because at the end of the episode, which was one of the most shocking points of the episode, because at this time, the character is, you know, not dead. He's not gonna die. So he yells for Satala and is like, hey, and all that, and she's like, don't say my name in public. Why are you doing this? And, like, why are you calling me a witch in public by that name? And it seems like it's a name that has a heavy burden with it, and this explains why there was a very awkward character interaction between the characters earlier on in the episode, because you had to where when she revealed her name, you saw the cat familiar, like, oh, why'd you do that? Like, she, you know, was just very shocked about it, because apparently she believed that since he had no idea or where he was from or where he was going or how to read, that she assumed that he didn't know who she was. So I believe that's why she said her name, and because of this now, this information he's been given, she now thinks he's mean or an ass or something. So it depends on where next week's episode goes. I believe that he's probably going to start saying things to get her on his side and saying, hey, you died. You need to, you know, make sure you don't go here, or, you know, you'll get killed too. I know where your, you know, insignia is. But the next thing, too, to really think about is that there is a key thing here that many of us might have overlooked, and that would be the ability of our main female character. She can communicate with spirits. She can actually talk to spirits and lesser spirits that have yet to form their own thoughts. And I believe this is probably going to play a huge role in the future of ReZero. I really believe so, because first things first, let's look at, you know, the similarities here, or the correlation between these two things. For one, endless cycle of death. It's a tragic, just endless cycle of constantly dying, having to repeat. Satala is dying. And because of this, you have it to where he's trying to do anything he can to stop himself from dying or others from dying. And with her being able to use, like, spirit-type magic, connect with, the other world, and talk to lesser spirits, and then, these other higher form of spirits like the cat, it makes me assume that that's probably going to play a part in the ability of the constant time traveling, or going back in the past, and then, trying to fix things. I believe there might be a form of way to have communication. Maybe. That's a possibility. Who the hell knows? So yeah, very good stuff. I love the first episode. High impressions of it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.